All right, let's get some of the extra board games out of the way first. 306-512 American minus 3.5 and 4. Move down to 306-502 under 127 and 27.5 and 27. Grambling and Southern. And 306-509 over 140 Coppin State, South Carolina State. Can't overlook those extra board games. Now, regular board games, let's look to 693 over 135 Sacred Heart Merrimack. 677 over 127 and 28 Air Force UNLV. Go down to 666 Arkansas minus the 4 and 657 over 128 Colorado and West Virginia. And here are the 5 bets that stick out the most already that are getting so much one-sided action. Looking at the back end of 2 different books, actually. Rhode Island against Fordham. It's all on Rhode Island. UNLV over Air Force. I think that's a little bit later. So you always got to, check back. But that one sticks out already. I don't think that's going to change. Rutgers against USC. And then a total over Seton Hall and Villanova. And finally, here's a side that not only is the public destroying, but it also got bet by one of the groups that I share with, and they bet Vanderbilt against Texas minus 2, and slight bet Vandy on the money line as well. So books are definitely on the other side of that Vanderbilt game.
With this, the numbers seemed a bit high, at least, and it is relative to how I have it power rated. But here's what you guys need to understand. Cal closed the regular season by playing a 4 overtime game against Notre Dame. Then yesterday, in the opening round of the ACC tournament, they had to go to double overtime to eliminate Virginia Tech. So that's 30 extra minutes of basketball in the last 4 days for this Cal team, while Stanford did not have to play yesterday as they received a bye into the second round. You look back at the regular season, Stanford won both meetings by 5 and by 8. Now, the Cardinals did not end the regular season particularly well. As a matter of fact, they scored just 102 total points in road losses to Notre Dame and Louisville, just 2-9 against the spread their last 11 overall. However, Prez, I will point out, I was on Stanford the last time they won, 73-68 win over SMU. I get they have not won by They have not won by margin very often as of late, just one win by more than 5 points in those last 11 games. However, this rest edge, guys, is so significant, particularly with Cal having played 6 overtimes in the last 2 games, including 2 yesterday. Maxime Reynaud is the player to watch here. First team All-ACC for Stanford. He averages 20.1 points, 10.9 rebounds per game. 23 double-doubles this season. That leads the country, Prez. So Stanford, I would lay it here. Stanford and Cal in the ACC tournament just does not sound right whatsoever, but I guess it is what it is. 2 bubble teams, both on 5-0 ATS runs. Seems like it's hard to call. Oklahoma been the underdog each of those last 5 games, won outright 3 times. As for Georgia, not only have they covered 5 straight, they've also won 4 of those straight up. Of the 2, Georgia's certainly the safer bet to make the NCAA tournament. Obviously, favored here. And I'd lay the points because I just don't think Oklahoma is all that good. I get that they shot the lights out against Mizzou. I was wrong. A rare loss for me on Saturday. I took Texas against Oklahoma. But remember, guys, while the Sooners started 13-0 straight up in the non-con, they had some incredible good fortune go their way. They were just 6-12 straight up in SEC play, and that's with this recent surge. Georgia beat them in the only regular season meeting, 72-62, back on January 11th, cashed as 7.5-point favorites, and they did so even though they shot just 3 of 17 from 3. Now, I will point out, Georgia had a massive free throw discrepancy in their favor in that game. Almost 30 more attempts from the charity stripe than Oklahoma, but the way to beat Georgia is second chance opportunities. Oklahoma does not really do that. As a matter of fact, the Sooners are second to last in the SEC in offensive rebounding percentage. So I think today plays out in pretty similar fashion to that regular season meeting. I would take Georgia. As there is just, you know me, there's just no way I could come on this show, break down 3 games, and tell you to take the favorite in all 3. That just wouldn't be like me. So let's take the points here. I know Kansas is 4-1 against the spread their last 5 games, but I am not a believer in this Jayhawks team making a run this weekend in the Big 12 tournament. Why? Well, because it would require them winning 4 games in 4 days. They have not done that this entire season in Big 12 play, which is a stunning thing to say about a Bill Self-coached team. In fact, the last time the Jayhawks won 3 straight games, not 4, but 3, was January 5th through the 11th. This is actually the first time under Self that they're not a top 4 seed in this Big 12 tournament. KU did win the regular season finale at home against Arizona, 83-76, but they do not win by margin often, Prez, in conference play. Since February 1st, I count just 2 double-digit victories for the Jayhawks. So I look at today's game against UCF. Odds makers asking Kansas to win by double digits. I'm saying no thanks. I know UCF had to play yesterday. It was a pretty big comeback. They went from down 14 to winning by 12, and the Knights did get blown out. I recognize this in one of their 2 regular season games versus Kansas, but they only lost the other one by 4. Generally speaking, Kansas is not good at protecting leads, so give me UCF plus the point.
Well, when you look at some of the future stuff now, some of these tournaments are going to start here in the next half an hour or hour, but, we saw some love for Tennessee in the SEC market, plus 650, plus 600, all the way down now to 5-1. Maryland, who moved up from the 3rd slot to the 2nd slot in the Big Ten, took some sharp money at 5-1. And then UConn, because, the Big East to me is really a 2-horse race. If you want to throw Creighton in there, fine. Obviously, St. John's is the leader, but a lot of people saw UConn sitting there at 4-1 to win that Big East, so they took some shots there for them to win the Big East tournament. When you look at just the overall big tournament, we're sitting pretty good. Liability-wise, the real teams we want to avoid are UConn, who's probably not going to three-peat, Purdue, who's kind of fallen off a little bit. Duke is a small loser. It's nothing crazy for us. But the one team who's like the big team who's made the big move from an opener of 80-1, the team that we want to avoid most is Florida winning the national championship. That's a team where we took money all year on 80-1, 60-1, 41. Them sitting now at 7-1, and they fit all the Ken Pom metrics, top 20 in both offense and defense and all the things players and, bettors like to see when they're betting on them. So Florida's the number 1 team we want to avoid to win the national championship.
Yeah, let's take his over 2.5 made threes. Normally, I like to stay away from these 2.5 made threes. I like to stick to 1.5 made threes, but I can't argue with the volume and success. So he's come back from injury, played 7 games, and gone over easily in all 7 games. He's averaging 8.4 three-point attempts, and he's shooting 50.4% from threes, not from the field, but from threes in that stretch. Looks like Gobert is back, but is going to be on a little bit of a minutes restriction. He only played 20 minutes the other night, but DiVincenzo has gone over in 5 straight games with Randall and Gobert in the lineup. So you might be worried about them getting Gobert and Randall back. I think it just opens up the floor and gives him a few more opportunities. Denver is actually pretty terrible in 3-point defense. They're 23rd in the league, 28th against shooting guards. They give up 3.6 made 3-pointers per game to the position. So I like DiVincenzo continue his hot shooting streak. We'll take his over 3s tonight. Over 1.5 shots on goal. We cashed this as a client play the other night. We're going right back to it. He had 4 shots the other night. That makes him over in 15 out of 20 games and 9 out of 10 games. Last 10 games, he's averaging 4.8 shot attempts, 2.3 shots on goal. Buffalo's not very good on defense. He's gone over the last 3 times he's played them. They are 22nd allowing shots on goal. Over in 5 out of 6 games. There's tons of stats to support this one, but this is going to be another client play until they move this up to 2.5 shots on goal. Stephen Bunting has yet to win on the Premier League, Prez. They've had 5 nights. He's 0 for 5. He looks so uncomfortable. It sucks because he's got a killer walkout song, and it's really exciting, and he's a fan favorite. He just looks awful right now. And Gerwin Price is in much, much better form. I'm going to need to see it before I start betting on Stephen Bunting. So minus 145 to me is a great price on a guy that's really struggling. Let's take Gerwin Price on the money line.
I'm kind of looking at Keegan Bradley at 50-1. Ever since the Ryder Cup was announced that it's going to be at Bethpage, we've seen a completely different Keegan Bradley. He made it kind of his point that he really wanted to play onto that team. And since then, he's been named the Ryder Cup captain. And all he's done since then is just continued to play better golf than we've seen over the last few years. And you get a player that, isn't enticed by, what Pete Dye is going to throw at you at Sawgrass with a lot of risk-reward shots. He's going to play his game. He's going to depend on his wedges, and he's going to give himself birdie putts. So you get a guy that's playing the best golf of his career. He's obviously a motivated golfer at around 50-1 with some of the finishes he's had over the last month or two. I definitely like those prices. I really like the way that Ludvig Aberg is playing. He looks like an absolute robot out there. There's no, emotions. There's no frustrations when he hits a bad shot. It's like he just, gives himself a couple seconds to be upset, moves on to the next one, and he hits fairways and greens. And, like I alluded to with Keegan Bradley, and just, depending on your game and not trying to play somebody else's game, this just TPC Sawgrass just really fits his eye. He had a debut finish of 8th last year. Now he's gotten really his feet wet on the PGA Tour. So I really like Ludvig Aberg. The only price that I can find was a top 5 finish, and I got him at plus 400. So, I'm definitely not saying, betting against Scottie Scheffler is necessarily a long-term investment into making money. But if you're going to give me plus 170 on the second-ranked golfer in the world in Rory McIlroy, I just think those odds are way too high. You're getting a golfer in Rory that has won the Players before. And yes, we're going up against Scottie Scheffler that's going for a three-peat as he's gone back-to-back and winning the Players. But this is not the Scottie Scheffler that we saw last year. I'm not saying that he won't turn it around and get to where he was last year, because that was obviously a great year of golf that Scottie put in. But he hasn't been at the top of his game this year, and he's still kind of battling, coming back from that injury, trying to make ravioli with a wine glass. But like I said, it's just he's not the same golfer. I'm not trying to bet against him all year long, but you're giving me plus 170 only to beat one golfer and the second best golfer in the world. So I'll take plus 170 with Rory over Scottie Scheffler.